Hi all, welcome to Tech Forum. In this video, let us see the details on AEM Embed core component and how to extend to support additional URLs and embeddables. The embed component allows the content author to embed the selected external content within an AEM content page. In addition, there is an option to include free-form HTML to be embedded as well. Embed component allows the template authors to enable the default configurations through policies. Also, the page authors to manage the configurations. Those are allowed by template authors through component dialog. Let us quickly see the configurations. Let me edit this page. Edit the template. The embed component is already enabled. Click on policy. The template authors control the properties. Those are available for the page authors through this policy. Enter a new policy name, embed. Disable any options that should not be available for page authors. Embed component supports URL, embeddable and HTML. Those we can see in details. The template authors can disable any of these options, URL, embeddables or HTML. Select the embeddables that can be used by authors. Out of the box, only YouTube is enabled. I'm going to select that. Now the template authors can control the embeddable properties, in our case YouTube, those available for authors. Let me go into YouTube. You can see here allow configuration for mute, autoplay, loop, multiple configurations. The template author can select the available configuration for page author. I'm going to select all those. Even you can set the default value. Okay, click on done. Fine, now the policies are enabled. Let me go into the page. The page author can now configure the embed component. I am going to drag and drop the embed component. Let me open. Yeah, you can see the different types here. URL, embeddable, then HTML. URL, you can specify the embeddable URL. If I go to embeddable, you can see the available embeddables now. In our case, only YouTube. If I select YouTube, you can see different options, video ID, width, height, then whatever the configurations template authors enable, mute, autoplay, loop, and all those configurations. Then if I go into HTML, you can specify the HTML embed code here. The simplest embed is the URL. Specify the URL of the external resource you wish to embed. One of the available processor retrieves the embed code from the external server and displays. The author receives a confirmation message if one of the processor was able to process the URL. The embed component enabled with a processor to process all the external resources that supports OEmbed API. Example Twitter, YouTube and Flickr. In our earlier videos, we have discussed about OEmbed protocol and how to use OEmbed API to embed the resources into a website. What is OEmbed protocol? Embedding third-party resources with OEmbed, and also another video, embed tweets and timelines to website through OEmbed API. As we discussed in our earlier video, the provider.json lists out all the OEmbed supported resources. Here the URL endpoint and the URL schemes are defined. Let us quickly see default URL processors enabled. So you can go to config manager, then core components OEmbed client. You can see different clients by default supported. YouTube, if I go into the YouTube, then provider name YouTube, then format JSON or XML, both are supported. Anyhow, it's a default JSON. API endpoint, so OEmbed. You can verify this value with this provider.json. You can see for YouTube, the endpoint is the same. Then if I come back, then URL schemes are defined. You can see youtube.com, different URL schemes enabled here. So those are enabled here also. Only different is you should be adding this dot before the star because to make this as a regex. Now same way, you can go and check Twitter, same thing, API endpoint, then URL scheme. Next one is Flickr. You can see here, only different is the format is XML. Let us quickly validate some sample URLs. I'm going with Twitter timeline, then individual tweet, then one YouTube URL. So let me copy this. If I paste this, You can see here the Twitter URL can be processed. Means the OEmbed processor can process this URL. Now let me click on done. Yeah, fine. Now it's getting displayed. Now let me go and add another embed component. I will go with the individual tweet URL. Okay, Twitter URL can be processed. This is done. Fine. Let me go with YouTube. YouTube URL can be processed. So I can click on done. Yeah, if you see here through this URL option, I will not be able to control any parameters. Just the video is displayed through default parameters. If required, you can enable some of the parameters. Those are supported by YouTube OEmbed API. So let me specify max width maybe equal to 600. If you notice here, I am adding ampersand instead of question mark. Why? Because the processor already adds the question mark. Let me click on done. Now if you see, the width of the video is increased. Now let me add another embed. This time I want to include a Vimeo video. I am going and copying this. Yeah, if you see here, the error is displayed because there is no processor enabled to support this Vimeo URL. Let me quickly enable the processor for Vimeo. Enable a OSA configuration with this specific PID, and also I appended this Vimeo. So let me quickly open this. If you see here, unsafe context true because it's a known URL. Scheme. So these are all the schemes defined. Then endpoint https vimeo.com API oembed.json. Then provider name I am specifying as Vimeo. These all values you can get it from here. If you come here and search for Vimeo, so this list out all the URL schemes and also the endpoint URL. Then if I come back, only different is as we discussed the dot star. If wherever the star is there, you need to just add the dot. So because this is a regex. If I go and refresh this again, you can see here now this Vimeo is enabled. Now let me go back to the page and add a embed component. Let me copy this URL again. Yeah, now it's saying Vimeo URL can be processed. Click on done. The video is displayed now. Like this, you should be able to define the URL processor for the resources that supports standard OEmbed API. Another use case is embedding the resources that won't support the standard OEmbed API. Example, Pinterest. Custom processor helps here. The custom processor for the Pinterest URL is enabled out of the box. Let me quickly configure a Pinterest URL. I'm going with this URL. Yeah, Pinterest URL can be processed. Click on done. The resource is embedded now. If you refer this core WCM components repository, you can see Pinterest URL processor.java under this embed folder. Again, this implements URL processor. Then there is a process method. This returns a provider name, example Pinterest, and also the scheme URL is defined here, pinterest.com, then pin, then any digit. So if the URL matching with this pattern, this will return the result, so that the author will be seeing a message saying the Pinterest URL can be processed. One more thing is HTML template to embed the Pinterest resource. This is the way the Pinterest resource can be embedded into a website. The anchor tag, then the href with the Pinterest URL, then the script required to render the resource. If you see here, this is enabled under apps core WCM components embed, then v1 embed, then processes pinterest.html. This Pinterest name should be matching with this name whatever we specified, the URL processor Pinterest. To embed the custom resources that won't support standard OEmbed API, create a custom URL processor by implementing the URL processor interface like this. Pinterest URL processor implements URL processor and enable the required logic. And create an HTML template file to embed the resource. Name of this template should be matching with the provider name specified in the URL processor. The URL processor can be kept anywhere inside your core module. Place the HTML template under the same folder structure under your custom UI apps module, components embed, v1 embed, processes, then add your custom processor. Let us quickly see the embeddables now. How to enable the embeddables? Let me add another embed component. Let me go here. Select on embeddable. The embeddable allows for more customization of the embedded resource. The author can select from pre-configured trusted embeddable and also configure the properties for the resource. So let me select YouTube. Then let me go and copy this video ID. I'm not specifying any width and height. The default behavior is responsive. Now I can specify any parameters, enable mute, then enable autoplay. So any other configurations required. So let me click on done now. Yeah, now if you see here, it's a responsive video. If I change the size, the video size also will get changed. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, the video size also changed. And also if you see, by default it is muted and it's doing a autoplay. This is the YouTube implementation class. So under embeddable YouTube imbl.java. If you see here, the base embed URL www.youtube.com embed, then the video ID, and also all other parameters, origin, mute, loop. This has the logic to return the final iframe URL by appending all the required parameters. You can see here, get iframe src. So this will return the final iframe URL. So you can refer this logic also. Now another one is, there is a youtube.html file. Under this again the component embed, embeddable, YouTube, then youtube.html, iframe enabled and also pointing to the YouTube service. Then it's setting the parameters width, youtube.iframe width, otherwise default is 100%. Then again iframe height, default is 390, and also including the iframe src. Frame border equal to 0, then allow full screen, allow autoplay and full screen. This will display the YouTube video based on the configurations enabled by author. Let us now see how to create custom embeddable to support Vimeo videos that enables more control. As a first step, I copied youtube.java and created vimeo.java file. Then same way YouTube imbl and created Vimeo imbl.java. This is the model. Adaptable adapters Vimeo.class. This is the interface. This has all the parameters and methods defined. Modified the YouTube reference to Vimeo. If you see here, Vimeo video ID, Vimeo width, and all those variables are changed. Then if I go to Vimeo imbl.java, so the important change is base embed URL. Here it is https player.vimeo.com video/video ID. Then some of the parameters I removed, like origin and all those things, not supported for Vimeo. Muted, loop, autoplay, place inline. Some additional parameters are supported by Vimeo. If you want, you can enable that. Other changes, I removed some of these parameters, origin and all those parameters, whatever not required for Vimeo. Yeah, those are all the changes in this file. One important point to notice, I defined these models outside of this folder, the default folder. So ensure this package info.java file is enabled, otherwise the models will not be registered. So this file has this package name and the version. Also you should define a embeddable component to render the Vimeo video. I copied this YouTube embeddable component from this core embed component, embed v1, embed embeddable YouTube into my custom project. Yeah, if you see here embed, then embeddable, so then the Vimeo. So I renamed the YouTube to Vimeo. Then it has the same design dialog. I did not done any change. Then also CQ dialog same. Then Vimeo.html. I changed the model name here. Instead of YouTube, it's Vimeo. Then Vimeo.iframe width, height, then iframe src. Other than that, everything is same. Also, I changed this ARIA label instead of YouTube to Vimeo video. Another two important changes are, if I go to this design dialog, Granite data. If you see here, this variable, the value for this variable, I changed to Vimeo specific. Instead of YouTube, it's Vimeo. Also, this variable name is changed. It was YouTube. I changed to Vimeo. Same way under CQ dialog, Granite data. So change the resource type. Instead of YouTube, it's Vimeo. Let us now quickly enable the policy. Go into embed policy. Now embeddable types. You can see Vimeo also enabled. But here one problem is this design dialog is not working as suspected because it's only supporting YouTube. So both are displaying, or if whenever I selected this Vimeo, somehow YouTube is not getting displayed. Even I created a issue under this repository, design dialog for the additional embeddable not working as expected for embedded component. So but anyway, it will work. So you will be able to select, but the hiding and displaying, it has some issue. Even this design dialog is not mandatory. If template author don't want to control any properties, you can skip this design dialog and enable only the dialog. But you may need to do some adjustment to the dialog because currently the dialog for YouTube is enabled with render condition to render some of the fields based on this design dialog configuration. Now I am enabled this. If I go to Vimeo, again I can select all the configurations. Fine, click on done. Let me go into the page again. I'm going into add a embed component. Embed. Let me now copy the video ID. So this one. Okay, embeddable. Now Vimeo should be displayed. Paste the video ID. Fine, you can select any parameters, click on done. Yeah, now see the video is enabled. As the video is enabled through embeddable now, the author can easily control the video parameters. You can see all the OEmbed related classes over here, services, embed, OEmbed client IMBL, then JSON response IMBL, even XML response IMBL, also URL processor. The URL processor has the logic to process all the OEmbed supported resources. If you see here process, as a generic class, process all the OEmbed supported resources enabled through OSJ console. OEmbed.html processor for OEmbed resources. So if you see here, it is a generic again. It's for different resource types, photo, link, then video or rich, all handled through this same HTML file. You can also add free form HTML to your page using the embed component. The HTML markup is filtered for security purposes to avoid the cross-site scripting. In general, all script and style elements will be removed from the output. Embed component follows AEM's global HTML anti-SAMI filtering rule set located in libcq xss protection /config.xml. The rules can be overdone if required. The embed core component allows the content authors to include the selected external URL resources that supports OEmbed API. Also allows to define custom URL processor to embed the resources that won't support OEmbed API. The embeddables enable more controlled way to include the content from selected external resources. The custom embeddables can be defined if required. You can also add free form HTML to your page using the embed component. That's all for today. Thanks all for watching the video.